It's really quite interesting how people have tried to manipulate people and how to intimidate people and change their minds. This has been going on since we've been in America. You go back to the days of slavery.
The author brings up the topic of the division of society, which has its roots in the distant past. The historical example shows how slave owners used divide and conquer tactics to weaken resistance. But how relevant is this strategy today? It seems that instead of slaves and owners, we now have other groups that are opposed to each other, whether by political beliefs, skin color, or social status. It's a reminder of how important it is to look for what unites us rather than what divides us. How can we stop succumbing to this kind of manipulation in today's world?
In a lot of the states, there were more slaves than there were owners. So what did they do? They had to divide the slaves. So they told the ones in the house, you're better than the ones in the yard. And the ones in the yard, you're better than the ones in the field. And then after slavery was over, the light-skinned ones, you're better than the dark-skinned ones. And on it went, trying to divide people. Today, they say, if you are a conservative.
The stigmatization of political views is a problem that is increasing. Today, if you express an opinion that doesn't coincide with popular ideology, you can be instantly stigmatized. But shouldn't we consider how damaging this is to the free exchange of ideas? History teaches us that debate and respect for opposing viewpoints has always led to progress. Perhaps instead of labeling, we should focus more on dialogue. How would you propose to combat such prejudices?
Then you are somehow an Uncle Tom, you're a horrible person, you're a demon. What a bunch of crap, but it's been going on for hundreds of years. And it's really time to put a stop to it. So I am very happy to see that you have the courage to come out. It doesn't bother me anymore because, I only worry about what God thinks. I don't worry about what these other people think. But sometimes people ask me, what happened to you? You changed. I haven't changed. I changed about 35 years ago because, you see, I grew up in Detroit, a bastion of liberalism.
An interesting look at how personal experience influences political beliefs. The author talks about her journey from a liberal background to opposing beliefs, emphasizing the importance of independent thinking. This is an example of how listening to different perspectives can be a starting point for rethinking. Is it important for us to question our own views, even if they seem right to us? Perhaps that is the path to personal growth.
They call it progressivism now. They keep changing the name. But anyway, then from there to Boston, a bastion of liberalism. Back to Detroit, and then to New Haven, Connecticut, a bastion of liberalism. And then to Ann Arbor, Michigan, a bastion of liberalism. And then to Baltimore, Maryland, a bastion of liberalism. So I had no chance. I was a liberal. I was way out there. And then I did something that liberals are never supposed to do. I listened to a conservative. I listened to Ronald Reagan. And I said, he doesn't sound like a horrible racist person. He sounds just like my mother. And at that point, I started thinking for myself. And that made a big difference. It made a big difference in my medical career, too. I didn't do what everybody else did. I always started thinking out of the box. How do you solve this problem? And that's the reason that God gave us these complex brains. Your brain has billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. It remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard. It can process more than 2 million bits of information in 1 second. Would God give you something like that?
The idea that humans are endowed with a mind to think for themselves rather than blindly follow others is admirable. Our brains are incredible tools that we often only partially utilize. But in a world with so much information and noise, how hard is it to really think for yourself? The author reminds us that true freedom is the ability to analyze and make decisions based on our own values, not on the pressure of others.
Just so that you can be a sheep and follow what somebody else tells you to do, or to think for yourself. And, don't you find it fascinating that
the theme of contradictions in human perception is raised here. By recalling examples where the hero of the text has been rewarded for his efforts to fight discrimination, the author questions contemporary accusations of racism. Perhaps this emphasizes how easily the perception of an individual can be skewed if not based on facts. How important is it to verify information and see the whole picture before drawing conclusions? The author sarcastically notes that actions aimed at improving the situation of minorities are difficult to link to accusations of racism. Perhaps this reminds us of the need to judge people by their actions, not by rumor or speculation. What criteria do you consider important in judging someone's reputation?
That so many people say the president's a racist. He's a horrible racist and everything he does. Well, it seems to me like some years ago, Jesse Jackson actually gave the president an award in New York City because he opened so many opportunities for black people. Is that what a racist does? And then when he moved to Palm Beach, he was right on the forefront to fighting the clubs who were not admitting Jews and blacks. Does that sound like what a racist would do? He is the one who finally got the Second Chance Act done. Does that sound like what a racist would do? When he took office, he brought the office of HBCUs to the White House so it could get appropriate attention, more money than ever. Opportunity zones so that people could take this money and direct it to the places where people did not have opportunities before. An economy where you have the lowest unemployment rates for black people in history. And it goes on and on and on. Let me tell you something. If he's a racist, he's an awfully bad one.
The media play a huge role in shaping public opinion, and their choice of what to cover and what not to cover can greatly influence people's perceptions. The author emphasizes that no one is perfect, including journalists, but should we blindly trust everything we see and read? Maybe it's time to learn how to analyze information and look for primary sources.
He needs to go get a lesson from the real racists. The people who look at somebody like you and me and they say, because your skin is a certain color, you have to think a certain way. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And they start calling you names. Those are the real racists. But the president believes that a rising tide lifts all boats. He doesn't believe in identity politics, and that's why he's doing things that work for everybody. And we should be happy about that. And the media, they like to pick on him.
The call for reflection and personal contribution to informing others sounds like a guide to action. In an environment where information is often distorted, it is important to talk to family and friends, share facts, and help break stereotypes. What do you think it takes to break the chain of misinformation?
Any little thing, he's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. The only one who ever was perfect was Jesus, and they crucified him. So, think about this. And we need to just look at the big picture, think about all the incredible things that are happening, think for ourselves, and be missionaries. Go out and talk to your family, talk to your friends, help them to realize, because see, if all they're doing is looking at certain media, they don't even know about these things that we just talked about that he has done. And so they can perpetrate this horrible image of him being a bad person. It is absolutely not true. I work with him all the time. He's a wonderful person. He's become a good friend. You remember during the campaign when we were having a debate, and I couldn't hear my name. I came out, I stood there, I was waiting to hear everybody else gleefully walk past. He was the only one who stood with me until they straightened it out. That's the kind of person that our president is. I never said I received the full scholarship. I never, wait a minute, don't lie. I never said that I received the full scholarship. Nowhere did I say that.
There have been reports today is what I'm trying to
Politico, as you know, told a bold-faced lie. They've been called out on that by the Washington Post and by the New York Times, and I'm sure there'll be several others who will call them out on that, because there are actually some people with integrity in your business.
What I'm trying to get at is
you just told me that you got a scholarship offer. You just said that.
No, she said that I got a scholarship. I never said I got a scholarship.
So
I had people who said yes, that I could get a scholarship to West Point, and I told them that I wasn't interested, that I was going to pursue medicine. I do not remember this level of scrutiny.
The call to love and unification is especially relevant in our time. The author reminds us that progress is only possible when we act with the best of intentions. How can we bring more respect and cooperation into everyday life?
For one, President Barack Obama, when he was running. In fact, I remember just the opposite. I remember people just, oh, well, we won't really talk about that. We we won't talk about that relationship. Well, Frank Marshall Davis, well, we don't want to talk about that. Bernadine Dorn, Bill Ayers, he didn't really know him. All the things that Jeremiah Wright was saying, not a big problem. Goes to Occidental College, doesn't do all that well, and somehow ends up at Columbia University. Well, I don't know. His records are sealed. Why is his record sealed? Why are you guys not interested in why his records are sealed? Why are you not interested in that? Let me ask that. Can somebody tell me why?
Why do
please?
you think they are?
I'm asking you why it's sealed. Why? No, don't change it. I'm asking you, will someone tell me, please, why you have not investigated that? I want to know.
Why are you raising it?
Why? Because I want to know. You should want to know, too. The president, wait a minute. Hold on 1 minute. 1 second here. Now, you're saying that something that happened with the words, a scholarship was offered, is a big deal, but the President of the United States, his academic records being sealed is not. Tell me, wait a minute. Tell me how there's equivalency there. It doesn't matter where it is. Tell me how. That is a silly argument. Tell me how there's equivalence there. Tell me how there is equivalence there. Tell me somebody, please, because you see, what you're not going to find with me is somebody who's just going to sit back and let you be completely unfair without letting the American people know what's going on. And the American people are waking up to your games. I'd like to say that our hearts go out to the Blake family and the other families who've been impacted by the tragic events in Kenosha. As Jacob's mother has urged the country, let's use our hearts, our love, and our intelligence to work together to show the rest of the world how humans are supposed to treat each other. America is great when we behave greatly. In order to succeed in change, we must first come together in love of our fellow citizens. History reminds us that necessary change comes through hope and love, not senseless and destructive violence. Abraham Lincoln once said to an America divided that, quote, "Your purpose then, plainly stated, is that you will destroy the government unless you be allowed to construe and enforce the Constitution as you please on all points in dispute between you and us. You will rule or ruin in all events," unquote. These words of warning are relevant today. We have a choice. Do we want big government that controls our lives from cradle to grave? Or do we believe in the power and wisdom of the people and their ability to self-govern with help from a limited federal government? Our president, Donald J. Trump, believes in the people. He is one of us. He makes promises and he keeps them. He is transparent, and we certainly know what he's thinking. He does not submit to political correctness or to its enforcers, the media. He is real. Right now, we need real. We need courage. We can't cower in the corner and hope that no one calls us a name, believing that will keep us safe. That is not courage, and that will not lead us to a good and just place. We must remember all those who sacrificed everything in order to give us freedom, and we must be willing to do the same for those who come after us. President Trump does not dabble in identity politics. He wants everyone to succeed and believes in the adage, "A rising tide lifts all boats." Many on the other side love to incite division by claiming that President Trump is a racist. They could not be more wrong. Years ago, Jesse Jackson gave Donald Trump an award for the economic opportunities he created for black people. In Palm Beach, Florida, Donald Trump led the crusade to allow blacks and Jews into private clubs and resorts. One of the first things he did as president was bring the Office of Historically Black Colleges and Universities into the White House so that it could get proper attention and financial support. Before the pandemic, African American unemployment was at an all-time low. President Trump accomplished prison reform. He created incentives to encourage investors to become involved with economically deprived areas of America. He strongly supports school choice, fully recognizing that no matter what circumstances a person is born into, they can achieve success with a good education. It was true for me. When my mother forced me to read books about doctors, entrepreneurs, inventors, and scientists, I began to recognize that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you. My mother always told me, Ben, you can do anything, but I will never allow you to become a victim. It was then that I stopped listening to the people who were trying to convince me that I was a victim and that others were responsible for my victimhood. What is racist is the fact that African Americans have the highest abortion rate. President Trump is the most pro-life president in the country's history. He will continue to fight for those who cannot yet speak. The vision of a shining city up on a hill came from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. America is that shiny city. We are the beacon of hope for the world. At this moment in time, President Donald Trump is the man with the courage, the vision, and the ability to keep